Welcome back, everybody, to Unconditional Surrender, the Me, Myself, and I playthrough of the main event scenario. Game is published by GMT Games and is designed by Salvatore Vasta. We're getting ready to embark upon May 1944 turn. There was fair weather in April in the mild zone, and the Allies basically broke out into France outside of the Brittany Peninsula, and are also threatening to enter southern Germany through the Alps. Two little minor mistakes. The Germans, I forgot to put a sortie on the Germans that was defending here outside of Hanover. They didn't have 5 at the end of the turn. They actually had 6. So I corrected that, and I forgot to take off a production point for the British. But when I went back and saw how much they spent, they actually spent so that they had 1 left over. And that was the one that moved the home guard here from London down here. This was to prevent this first garrison just running up and capturing Nantes and messing me up. They can still do something about possibly isolating the first. And I think that'll depend on the weather die roll. So that's where we'll head off to, is the weather die roll. And I'm going to start up my timer here so I don't go too far over. We're starting in May, so there's no restrictions for this die roll. There will be in June. So in May, for the cold zone, we roll a 1. The cold zone on a 1 in May is fair. That means in June it'll have to be poor, because that's the rule. Is can't have the same weather you had in May that you have in June that you had in May. But I get a fair weather turn in the cold zone, so that could be interesting finally. In the mild zone, we roll a 4, which in the mild zone is also fair. And then in the warm zone, we roll a 6, and it goes to severe. But there isn't a lot going on in the warm zone. I think I have 1 German unit in the warm zone. Currently at Marseille. The rest are all in the fair weather zones, mild and cold. So that's going to be interesting. Nobody's going to declare war. Economy phase. Whoops. National tracks. Germany's back up to 38. Britain, 34. Russia, 40. They don't have a number big enough for the U.S. production. As a suggestion to Sal, I always thought maybe you should put in a couple production markers for the U.S. and have it be at 59, just to represent some of the strain that's going off to the Pacific. 59 is pretty much enough to do whatever they want for the most part, but it might get dicey if they're trying to rebuy, say, 2 surprise attack markers in the same turn. It would limit them just a little bit. But right now they have unlimited production, so we just let the U.S. do whatever it wants. That was the economy phase. Go to strategic warfare. Again, Germans don't have anything. The West doesn't have anything it can play. Russians could play their partisans, but it's a fair weather turn. They've got a surprise attack marker, partisans, tanks markers. I think they're going to try to make some holes while they can, because they know they'll have poor next turn. So they need to see what they can do against the Germans. So the Russians won't play theirs, and we just roll dice and add our numbers. So the Germans roll a 2 plus 1 is a 3, and the Russians roll a 3 plus 2 is a 5. And a 3 to a 5 is a diamond, or not a diamond, it is an AS. So the Germans' factory loss marker goes up to 3. Russians can't go any lower because they're at 1. And then we go over into the West, and we're going to have the same thing here, except the West is at plus 4. And again, I don't think... Nope, the West doesn't even have anything to play. So, yeah, we just roll dice and add the numbers. The Germans roll 3 plus 1 is a 4, and the British roll a 2 plus 4 is a 6. So that's a 4 to a 6. Hey, what do you know? We finally got 2 German factories in a row instead of them always getting 1 back. So we put up the German factory loss marker up to 14. So what? They'll be down to 11, 17. They'll be down to 34 next turn. This is really kind of bizarre to me that the Germans have been doing so well in strategic warfare, even with disadvantaged die rolls, simply because they've been able to roll high enough to take advantage of, you know, low die roll by the Allies and high die roll by the Germans. They kept their factory losses at a relatively low amount. So now we started to maybe make a bite into their production down the road. We have to take away some of their factories too to make it really hurt. But strategic warfare, strategic movement for the Axis. It's fair weather here, and it's fair weather in the east. With fair weather, seeing as how they did so well with that invasion at 2913, and then they, came back to capture Le Havre. I don't want to let them do that again, like at Calais. So I've been thinking about this, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the strategic move marker for the Germans, and I'm going to move the Riga garrison unit, and he's going to go westward. And he's going to actually go into this beach hex 2714. That way he's got to assault directly into Calais. Therefore, if he fails, he gets repulsed. When he landed at 2913 last turn, if he'd have failed to take Le Havre, he could have placed a mulberry there and still would have had a port. This kind of prevents him from doing that. He has to actually take a hex. Has to fight a combat. It's not much, but it's all I really got. With it being fair here, we're in world of hurt all over the place. Strategic movement for the West. There is this threat here, so I am going to... man, I really want to be able to use that in fair weather. So I'm going to take the home guard here, and I'm going to actually use him to strategically redeploy. He's not going to go very far. He's only going to go down to 3410. And the reason for that is just to prevent them from being able to... well, they still can do it, but it would require a concentration of effort. Do I even want to bother? Yeah, I'll do that just for now. I'm going to go grab the Gibraltar unit, and throw it probably back up, or a Malta unit, and throw it back up in England here somehow. I'll waste some sorties on some convoys to do some things. Just means I have to keep the Second Army within 3 of the coast of England, which pretty much I want to use the 2 British armies going up the coast, because then their aircraft can base in England and I don't have to keep them in supply. And we use the Americans and their aircraft to try and hit the southern parts of France. We'll have to see how this all works out. So that's the West. And did I have one in the Soviets? Well, I found myself lacking a spare infantry unit in the past. So I'm actually going to move like the 7th Infantry just to like right here, so I can fill a hole in the future if I need to. Where's Faction Track? So they're going to do a sort of a rinky-dink strategic redeployment. And then we go into Axis operations phase. Now we have a huge problem. We know that they've got May as fair. We know June will be poor. And then we know that we're going to face 3 fair weather turns for sure, possibly a 5th in a row, or another one if they get a 1 in October. So the Germans have to say, do they think they can hold this line in fair weather? Or is it time to just run? It is May 1944. You want to keep them out of Germany until the October, November of 44, if at all possible. My biggest fear is that they'll punch a huge hole here, and I won't be able to get my units out, so to speak. So that leaves me with a quandary of, I'm in a pretty good defensive position here. The guy outside of Smolensk isn't, of course, sitting in a fair weather or a fair, empty hex. Doesn't have any terrain. I could try to line them up a little differently to try and get some decent terrain to hold out in. But I'm not sure that that's the right thing to do. And I have the same problem here in northern Italy. If he gets through the 17th, he could end up in Munich. So he could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can't really get to any factories this turn. I could be silly and move the Africa army into Venice and, try to blow up the 8th Army or something, but I think that just leads to dead Germans, because I have a feeling that they might just ignore me and push on north. Just have the 8th Army fall back into a flanking position and just have the Americans try and push out. Let's see if I went there. Now, he could probably come back and assault me out of Venice. It is severe in the mud in Italy, though. So you'd have trouble doing that. So maybe I'll try something cute. Try to push the British. I'd only be +2, +3. -1 would be +2 to +3, 4, 5. Yeah, right. Not a real good choice there. And I also have the same problem in the West. How do I defend this in a fair weather turn? I think I have to abandon some 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to give up some stuff. I could try to be cute and move the 1st Garrison to 3411, and then the 8th Infantry into 3212, and then have the 3rd Panzer try to eliminate the 1st American Army, which would be annoying because I'd have to wait a turn and then rebuild it and bring it back. However, to do that, I would end up with 3 units completely out of position. I'd have to cover with something from somewhere to cover Paris. Otherwise, he'll, just kind of push the 3rd Panzer back and run the 3rd Armored in and basically run behind me and cut me off from getting back to the German border. If he wants to control, France south of the Loire, I think I let him. And I just keep on going, towards Germany, trying to get to those factories. And if I can get to Paris, that screws up a lot of his supply lines and things. So I'm not sure that I really want to go on the offensive here with the Germans, especially since my air is only matched by his. I have a -4 sorties. He has a -4 sorties. And he has 2 British airplanes, which means the British armor can probably get where it needs to go. So, boy, lots of choices for the Germans. Just spent a bunch of time discussing all that. Now I need to make some decisions and decide how I'm going to defend this. It's fair weather. I know I have poor next turn, so I think I'll go whole hog on this. There we go. 1, 2. That's 1. 1st Panzer goes 1, 2. The 20th goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sits in front of Kiev. So that's 4. Should probably be over here taking these off. That's 4 so far. 4th Panzer is going to sit behind Kiev. It's sort of a reserve. So that's 2 more. 4th is in the right place. 6 is in the right place. 9th is in the right place. The 11th is exposed somewhat, but because of the way zones of control work, he's still okay for at least one more turn. He'll probably end up getting surrounded, kind of like the way the first is down here. There comes a time when you just have to say it's in a good enough spot that even though it ends up getting surrounded, if he doesn't take the time to reduce it, you'll be able to take it off with no supply and you won't lose any will points. So that's why I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to leave the 2 in the north just where they're at and just hope for the best up there. So that's 2, 4, 5, 6. Took off 6 so far. Boy, in northern Italy, do I want to try to do a counterattack? I could go for an assault. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I could assault the 8th at +2, plus another one, +3. It'd be -1 for the mountain, so I'd be a +2, and he's a +3 just sitting there, even if he doesn't throw an airplane. Then I could throw an airplane to be +4, and he throws an airplane to be +5. +4 to a +5. If I get a really lucky split, I might be able to force him to retreat, which would put him in 24, 23. And if I don't take the hacks, he just moves back in and assaults me back. Push me out of Venice. You know, part of me really wants to take offensive action with the Germans, but I don't think I can. I think now is the time to try and, with fair weather turns and them, you know, having all these extra pluses. Fortunately, their aircraft are a little bit low, so a number of sorties, so that they won't have that +5 all the time, except for the 2 British armies. They will, on a fairly regular basis, have that. So I think what we're going to do is, first off in the west, we're going to activate this Panzer and go here. This Panzer is going to go into 32-13. So they line up fairly nice. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, down to 28. We're going to take the 8th German Army and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into 34-13. And then we're going to take the 1st Garrison's going to go down and sit in whatever that is. What is that? Toulouse. Give up Bordeaux. So that's 2 more. I'll go back through when I'm done and double check all my counts to make sure that I have the right production spent. And then the 2nd and the garrison that's in Marseille. I'm going to give up Marseille too. 1, 2, 3 to get onto that rail line from where I was sitting. And then 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8 into Vichy. And then the 2nd garrison's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the place where the 2nd infantry was. I don't know if it should be a 23 or 24. Okay, time to do a quick count, right? 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the west. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. When I add in the east, from 38 I should be at 24 for right now, and then I got to go decide what I'm going to do in the Mediterranean. You know, is it better for me to go ahead and send the German aircraft after the Americans? Trying to denude the Americans, since there's 3 American armies and only 1 American aircraft. Maybe I do in the American aircraft using my jets? Or do I try to stop? That's the other decision I have to make. Is it time to give up the Norway +1 to get an airplane down here to defend? I really want to not do that till July, if at all possible. I guess the real trick here, I think I'm going to go ahead and do this. The Luft Reserve, he's at -2 net. He's +2 for German, -4 for sorties. The Americans are at -3 net. They're +1 for American, -4 for sorties. And then the Germans will go ahead and play their Jets marker as well for this attack. I can find my faction card. Get my Jets marker out here, which will give the Germans a +2. So now I'm a 0 to a -3, which means I have a decent chance of causing a 2-for-1 split, which means I'd still have a sortie left, which would make the British have to spend a sortie to counter me. And I would be able to basically negate the American aircraft for May, because the only other one they can get is got 4 sorties on it. If it comes to the continent, it'll have 5. It might be able to participate in 1 combat, depending on how you run the shenanigans with the West. But that pretty much keeps the 1st armored or the 3rd armored kind of in check. They can't do as much. They have to attack at fairly lower odds, like +3s to +2s and stuff like that. So I think that's what we're going to do. So let's roll the dice. The Germans roll a 5. And at -3, I think the best the Americans can roll is a 3, so they're going to lose 2. Right? Out. So they're going to lose 2. So it is a 2-for-1 split for the Germans. 2 go up on the aircraft there. 1 goes up on this aircraft. The Jets come back next turn. So it feels like the right use for the Jets marker. And then I have to decide what to do here. Once again, the actual more threatening unit is the Americans, so I'm going to try and do Munich at -2 to the American -3. Just trying to get rid of their airplane. The British airplane, he has more units that could use it, but their retreat, I get to retreat in a good way. The Americans then would only be +3, -2. They'd be +1 coming across the Alps unless they do an assault. So that seems to be the right way to try and pull this stuff off. Trying to clog up here till I can build some units around Munich. So -2 to -3. The Germans roll a 3, -2 is a 1. And the Americans roll 5, -3 is a 2, so that's 1 sortie each. And, I think I'm just going to have them finish this guy's off. We'll negate the U.S.'s sorties. Yeah, I left the British basically 2 attacks with an airplane. The British will use one of their sorties to get rid of my guy in France. Their bombers will get through because I can only stop 2 sorties, so they're going to get a couple bomb markers. Unless I give up Stavanger. I could, fly this airplane. I think you can reach all the way to Antwerp. Zoom out so I can count. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I could fly all the way to Antwerp. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'd protect the Calais and the guy in front of Paris. The others would not unless I moved another sortie down. But once I leave Norway, I don't think I ever can get back. And that +1 might make a difference in some of these combats. What do I got coming on the turn track? I get submarines next turn, which means I should be able to get back one of my things. Do I bring that airplane down? I kind of negated the American airplane. I gotta watch out for British. The bombers are going to probably get through. Let's go do the Soviets and see. Need to try and negate some of their aircraft here. Question is just which ones. I think we'll start with Kiev going after the Bryansk one. So the Russians are at, excuse me, -4. The Germans are at net of -2. So the Germans are all a 1. And the rest of the Russians can get to 2, so that's 1 sortie each. And then I, excuse me. Then I think I'm going to have Kiev fly to the guy that's sitting out in the fields east of Kharkov. Doesn't matter what he rolls against me. See, I'd be at a -3. So 4 minus 3 is a 1. Doesn't matter. He just takes 1 there. So that kind of limits those guys to 5. This guy up in the north has got a lot. The guy in Odessa will go after the aircraft in the front line near the... should zoom this in so we can see what I'm talking about. 4th air. It's at -4. He's at -2. Oops, not -4. -2. He's a German. And the Germans roll a 6. And best Russians can get to 2, so I got a 2-for-1 split there. Yay. So I got rid of 1 Russian airplane. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this German airplane. And I'm going to negate that airplane. So it leaves him 2 sorties. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 can be used on the first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This guy could be used on the guy in front of Kiev. And everybody up to that hex outside of Smolensk. So we're going to try and go against the -3 guy with my -2. Out of Veluki, he's going to go after Bologoya. And I'm losing my voice. I'm going to take a quick drink. Just pardon me for a second. See if I can talk a little better now. And the Germans roll a 1. That doesn't work. And the Russians roll a 2. That doesn't work either. So this one goes up by 1. This guy goes up by 1. So he can only spend 1 more sortie. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to hit this one southeast of Bryansk. And we're basically going to try and paralyze the southern offensive of the Russians and hope we can weather the northern one. That's all I can try to do at this point. With fair weather, I don't know that I can weather any of these. But at least I kept the airplanes out of it. Except up in Bologoya. 2, 3, 4, 5. So he can handle the 11th, the 14th, the Nor, and Leningrad. He's got 2 of those hexes he can... 2 of those kinds of attacks he can try and do something about. So we'll see how this pans out. Okay. I really don't have any other German moves. Romanians. Yeah, I think I'm going to move this Romanian. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to go in the swamp southeast of Odessa. And then this Hungarian, who's just asking to be slaughtered, he's actually going to move down to 30, 40, 31, 45. Or do I just move him back out of the way? We'll put him at 31:45. There's my timer, so I'm going to have to wrap this up here real quick. I need to go take those guys off the tracks here. The Hungarians and the Romanians. The Finns will stay right where they're at. The Swedes will stay where they're at. So I'm going to have to do one real quick more count. Make sure I didn't screw up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 in the east. Still hadn't decided what to do in the northern Italy. 6 in the east. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I spent 14 out of 38. Leaves me with 24. And I have like at least 18 in airplanes to do. The real question is, what do I do in northern Italy? Do I go and try and be aggressive? I've knocked out the Americans, and if I can force the British, well, the British will be at +5 and I'll be at +3. No, I'm not going to get that aggressive. That's not aggression, that's silliness. I think what I am going to do is I'm going to move the Ligurian here. 32, 24. So that put me down to 23. I've got like 3 points, 3 infantry to build, infantry types to build, and then, airplanes to reform. I'm going to keep the guy in Stavanger for now. I probably really should bring him home to defend against this, but I know I'm going to get poor weather next turn. I'm hoping I can stem the tide during June, and then in July I'll pull him out of Norway and put him down in Germany to try and give me some extra sorties to try and deal with Allied air power. Not sure that's the right strategic decision, kids, but that's what I am going to try and do. So we're going to call this the German turn. Go down here. So that was the beginning of the turn and German operations phase with a whole lot of strategic gabbling from me. We will return with the Western operations phase in the next video. I'm Dren608. If you like my videos, please subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And we will be back with the Western operations phase in just a little bit. Till then, bye-bye.